connecting the audio. So welcome everyone. We're having a discussion today with Kansas about their participation in the ICMA coaching program. They're one of the ICMA State Association coaching partners along with 22 other states throughout the country. And they were interested in getting some insights into the coaching program, how to make most use of it. We've got city managers from throughout the state on this call. We've got their local, their state league. We've got somebody from Kansas University. So we're going to be trying to address how all those different players can take advantage of the coaching program. My name is Don Maruska, and I am the director of the ICMA coaching program. It's my delight to do that. I'm a master certified coach, and I create these coaching programs around the country to help people advance in their careers and to share best practices. I'm delighted that we also have Frank Bennett, who's the co-chair of the Preparing the Next Generation group and has been a city manager in Palo Alto and other cities in California, and is the person who's really been a champion of this program from the very beginning. So for 13 years, he's been working with me and others to help this program succeed. So he's got a lot of insights, and in particular, he works with states to help them get the most out of the program. So Frank, I'll have you step in at various times here to be sure that you're sharing your insights and expertise along the way, because you have such a critical role in helping these states be effective. You're seeing on your screen here the landing page. It's icma.org/coaching. So anytime that you or anyone else wants to figure out what's going on with the program, what's happening, how to get access to the resources, this landing page is the place to go. And you'll see the key services that are identified there, and we're going to take a few minutes to go through each of them. We're really delighted that ICMA-RC has become platinum sponsor, enabling this program to go national, and that's been very effective, and we're very thankful for them. And ICMA and Cal-ICMA have been continuing to be major sponsors along with the ICMA State Association coaching partners. So we have 23 currently. Numbers growing as more and more states are interested in how they can access these resources. Our basic plan with the coaching program is to have common where possible, that is to share things where they can be shared freely and openly across the states, and to have customized things where customization is needed at your local state. And so we're going to be talking about both what's common and what's we suggest being custom, so that you can see different ways that you can take advantage of the program. The services in the program are listed here. You also see them replicated up here on the nav bar. And so we're just going to take a look. One of the broadest reach elements of the coaching program are the webinars. So if you click on webinars, you'll see all the webinars that are scheduled. There's 6 of them. And if you want to encourage your team members and others to register, they can just go at any time on this website and register for any and all of the webinars. They need to register for each one individually so they get recorded and logged in. There's no charge for any of these webinars, and they're open to anyone who's interested in local government. So you can have your employees in your organization who are ICMA members and those who aren't can all participate together. Let me just click on an example of the registration here. And this is what it looks like coming through the GoToWebinar system. You can see the listing here of the topics. You see if we click more, there are the presenters, including your own Susan Sherman, who was highly recommended for this topic. So we're delighted that she's joining. And then it gives also for our audience post-webinar discussion questions. We really tried to create a resource here that is helping to build capacity in local governments. And so we encourage you and all of your members to not only be watching yourself, but to be actively involved in bringing groups of people together so that you can learn as a group. And we have these post-webinar discussion questions for each session to provide an opportunity for everybody to have some discussion about, okay, what did we hear? What did we think might apply to our agency? What resources were identified that you'd like to explore further to support your efforts? This is all part of making each of these webinars a robust professional development learning opportunity and an organizational learning opportunity as well. So people register here, they put in their name, their email address so that they can get the notices that are appropriate. We just check in to see if they're already a member of one of the states, encouraging people, if they're not members, to become members of your organization if they're in Kansas or whichever state they're from. So we're trying to help this also be an outreach tool for you in attracting interest in local government and interest in the Kansas Association of City County Managers, so that you have, in exchange for people accessing these resources, a good way of attracting people into your organization. And people can enter questions here, and they click on the registration, and all works well for them to then have all the information that they need to begin participating in the program. So that's an illustration of what we are doing, and all the links here. These are all hot links, so people can just click at any time to get into those and to register. There's no charge. We encourage people and encourage you in getting your notices out, and we put those in the notices that we send to your state association to be shared out into the organization for them to be letting people know, what's available here, how they can access it, and also even if they can't make the particular scheduled time, and you notice we've tried a whole number of different times to make it convenient for people across the country, but even for people for whom the time zone works, we find that many of them are accessing the digital recordings. In fact, we've got the city of Lexington, Massachusetts, where they set up a session with the digital recordings after the live webinar, because they have somebody from their team go through and identify points where they want to stop and have some discussion along the way with the digital recording, and then have a way to be able to guide their team through that. So they've actually enhanced the program by making using the digital recordings. And so if you register for the program, even if you can't make it, you'll get automatic notices about when the digital recordings are available. I try my best with the technology that we have to turn those around within 24 hours. And I see I already got a question from Larry about, well, where can you find some of the resources that are here? And what are some ways to be accessing that? And I'll do that in just a moment. I'll show you where we keep the archives and how that all works. And in fact, here's the link to the archive. So we'll go there right now. Whoops. Huh. Okay, there's one there. A glitch we'll have to work out with the ICMA technical people, but there's another way to go. You can always come back here, go to webinars. You'll see agendas and archives, and this will load up. So you see we've got an upcoming event, the one on March 10th. There's an agenda here that gives people specific information and background about the presenters. So you click on that, and you'll see what the agenda packet looks like. It gives some more details. It gives the background of the presenters that you see here. And then as we get the materials for the session, and I work as best I can with our volunteer presenters to get all of their final presentations compiled at least 24 hours in advance. And up on the website, this is actually like a very robust agenda packet. So if you wanted to take notes as you're going along, a PDF of the slides will be there. It's a great way for you to be making this a really robust and successful package. You see here are all the archive videos from past sessions. So we've got dozens of them up here. Many of them are on topics that are timeless, if you will, as well as some that are very timely. And you can pick and choose amongst those and take a look. So for example, if you wanted to look at the question of how to serve a diverse population successfully, you just click on that video, and that loads up on the website here. You can, and you'll see that the agenda packet is here. I'm going to stop it for a moment. But the agenda packet now has not only the information for the setup of the program, but it has all the slides from all the presenters. And we even have at the end of that material, we've got something that's been very powerful for us with the coaching program, and that is we've got the polling results. So one of the things we do to make these lively and dynamic is to have polling questions that we ask in the course of the hour and a half. So there'll be 6 questions, 2 per half hour. It works really well to make it a lively, dynamic, interactive learning process rather than a cold, sterile one. So we use polling questions in which we gather information about what people are doing, what their reaction is to what they're seeing, what value they're getting from the webinar, what punch list of actions that the presenters are suggesting they might like to apply in their own organization. And then you can go back to your organizations and your elected officials and say, hey, I was just in this webinar with 600, 1,000, however many people. You can see on this one we had 733 participants from 271 locations around the country. And here are some of the things that they're doing to serve diverse populations successfully. Maybe some of these are things that we should be thinking about in our community. So it gives you an instant expanded network, if you will, of best practices and who's doing what and how they're doing it. And that's one of the things that we do to make this lively and dynamic. You can also go here, and you'll see that I'm clicking on full screen. And this takes the digital video recording to a full screen format so that you can be projecting this up in a conference room. You can be watching it as a team. You can be doing whatever you would like with it, stop and start it, and it will have a synchronized video and audio from that session so that people can be, once again, as much a participant in this as possible. The other thing we do for interactivity is we have questions and answers on the webinars. So we invite people to type in questions that they have in mind. We try to get to as many of those as possible in the time that we have available so that people get a really robust learning experience from this and have an opportunity then to address those post-webinar discussion questions about, all right, what do we want to do to take this into our community and to do that effectively. So that's some information about the process that we use here. You'll see that there's also some
Don, let me add something, if I may. While anybody in Kansas or anybody in any state can participate in the webinars from their PC as an individual, we highly recommend that organizations bring together groups to participate, because it's a much better learning experience if a group participates and then they have a post-webinar discussion. Some organizations, have some sodas or popcorn or cookies, invite people. Some organizations have a department head who hosts the webinar, and so everybody in the organization gets to meet different department heads, which typically they don't get an opportunity to do. So when you promote the webinars, it's very essential that, first of all, you're not just promoting them to your members. You want your members to distribute the announcements to everybody in their organizations. I mean, that's how you get the most impact. If it's not just the members, it's everybody in their organizations. And number two, where possible, people call together groups, because that's the best learning experience.
And we've had people call groups together across communities, and that's been a very robust learning experience as well as within their community. And I also want to reach out to Ray here from KU. Ray, a lot of professors in MBA programs around the country are starting to assign webinar participation or webinar viewing as an opportunity to give people hands-on understanding of what's happening in the profession, what are current best practices, what people are like who are in the leadership roles of local government, et cetera. and I know USC and some other places have been doing this, and it's been very well received. And I hear from students all the time about how they've accessed it, and the fact that it's available 24/7 in digital recording is very useful to them. So you don't have to pull it out of class or try to have your class match the webinar schedule. And of course, they appreciate that with all the sponsors that we've gotten, that this is free to them. So we hope that you'll make a good use of these resources and ways that they can be available and useful to you. So what we've just been talking about is one of the benefits of the program. We definitely want to be covering the others. We talked about the agendas and archives here. But before we move on from that, are there questions that you have? I'd love to hear your questions because you're likely to have questions that others from other states would have in their mind as well. So we'd like to be sure that we're responsive to what's in your mind and how you'd like to use these resources and questions you have about their accessibility.
So Don, this is Susan Sherman.
Sure.
So do you, so I see that you poll during the webinars, do you also do an after evaluation, or would like our state association be able to somehow know how many of our members are participating in these webinars? So kind of the analytics behind it as well?
Great question. So a couple of things. One, for every webinar, we have a post-webinar survey. So in addition to the polling questions during the webinar, we have the questions that we ask so that people can do that offline after the session, how it was valuable to them on a rating scale, suggestions about future webinars, suggestions about things to enhance the coaching program, services they're using in the coaching program, some feedback kinds of things. So that's one way that we do it. The other is that for each of the sessions, I develop an attendee report and a registration report. So what I send out to each of the ICMA State Association coaching partners after each webinar is, here's the registration for the webinar. Here's how many registered from each of the states. And so you can see how you're doing relative to other states. And we've also each year at the ICMA conference have a session where people exchange what they're learning from each other about how to do this effectively. For example, we noticed that Texas and Illinois and even small population-wise Wisconsin just took off like gangbusters when they started the coaching program in terms of the registrations and everything else. And now you might expect that with large Texas and Illinois, but how did Wisconsin do that? Well, they just were very active, and every time we had a notice, and I'll show you what the notices, email notices look like, in getting those out to all their members. And so when I asked them, well, what's your secret? They said, well, we just send out the notices. And so we'll go over what those notices look like in a couple minutes here so that you can see how we're supporting you in the marketing of this to your members, at least to the information provision to your members to make access of it. But it's pretty straightforward, and you can be seeing, okay, how well are your efforts to get the word out working in terms of reaching your members. So you'll get a report after each webinar on the number of locations registered from your state and every other state that's participating. So that's a little bit about the first two components here, the webinars and the agendas and archives. And what I'd like to do, first of all, anything else about those before we go on to the other resources?
What, excuse me, Don, one quick question. These are open to anyone in open government, as you stated, and no charge, but they need to be an ICMA member, correct?
No, they do not.
They do not? Okay.
No, we encourage them to be ICMA members. We ask them if they are ICMA members when they register, but we make it clear that you do not have to be an ICMA member to register.
Okay.
ICMA and ICMA-RC as major sponsors, have adopted the perspective that this is a major way to reach out to people in the profession to attract them into ICMA. We were struck that on one of the webinars we asked, well, how many people know about ICMA, and then how many of you know about ICMA's Code of Ethics? And less than a third of the audience knew about them. So this is a great way for ICMA to reach out and to get more people informed about what it does, why it's of value. And our experience is that as people get more virtual exposure, it builds their interest in doing the personal connections, like at your state association meetings or at the ICMA annual conference and regional conferences and other things, because people start to develop relationships, see value, and want to get more connected. So that's the basic philosophy here. So it is open, and we make that clear. Now, we'll talk in a couple minutes about, well, what's the advantage of being a state partner, and how does that make a difference for you in doing that, and the other 22 states in addition to yours that are part of that. But the philosophy is that where possible, we make the resources available, especially if there's no incremental cost of making those resources available, to the next person that participates. So each of the webinars typically gets 600 to, well, I guess high water mark was 1,264 on one webinar in the live audience. We get about 60,000 page views of people tapping the archives from the sessions each year, and those numbers are growing. So it's a fairly wide and broad access that's happening.
Okay.
Anything else before we move on? Okay, and if you wish to ask a question or if your microphone isn't yet working, you can tap it in the chat box. I'm trying to keep track of that while I'm also doing the other parts of it here. Now, a key thing that's very valuable and a critical element for the ICMA State Association coaching partners is how to bring this forward to your own state. And really, we think one-on-one coaching is a great way to do that. The states, a number of states have set up coaches galleries of people that their state associations have vetted and decided they'd like to invite to be volunteer coaches for quality control purposes. And then those are made available for people to access and tap. Frank, you've done a lot of work in building this and helping this go forward. I'm going to put the coaches gallery up there so people can just see what this looks like. Currently, do you want to take a couple minutes and talk about the work you've been doing with states in attracting coaches in, and then I'll talk a little bit about the Coach Connect program that's coming so that people know where it's going next. Frank, are you on mute?
Sorry. California has, over time, built up the Cal ICMA Coaches Gallery, which has almost 100 city, county managers, department heads, and other senior leaders who have already agreed to be a coach. Now, the key to developing a one-to-one coaching program in your state is to make it as simple as possible. A lot of organizations have tried to develop one-to-one coaching programs, and people have to get vetted, and they got to go through coaches have to get vetted, they have to go through a whole process. People wanting coaches have to go through a bureaucratic process, and the whole thing dies from a lot of bureaucracy. Now, there is some benefit, particularly when you start, from the board in a state association reaching out to some well-respected senior managers who can get the program started, and you don't have to worry about quality control. Other states have also, when they've done that, they've identified 10 to 15 one-to-one coaches, and then they train them. And for instance, for Texas, I did a webinar training their coaches, their one-to-one coaches. As part of the ICMA coaching program, we are soon going to be developing some resources, online resources to train one-to-one coaches. But generally in California, there is a one point of contact. I'm the one point of contact. If somebody wants to be a coach, we provide resources on the website about how to be a coach, but we don't typically do a lot of training or a lot of vetting. So basically, any emerging leader in the state, in any local government, can go online. They can see the profiles of all the coaches, and they can pick a coach who has already agreed to be a coach. The only other thing we do is we, in addition to posting resources for coaches and resources for coachees, we also identify some senior advisors or some state liaisons, ICMA state liaisons, who can also serve as a matchmaker. So an emerging leader can go to one of the senior advisors or one of the the ICMA liaisons and get some advice on who would meet their needs as a coach. The key is to promote the heck out of it because emerging leaders are reluctant to reach out and ask for a coach. So you really have to over-communicate and over-market so people, it becomes part of the state association, state local government environment where we have a culture of coaching, and that takes time to build up. But having some resources like, you know, how to find a coach, how to benefit from coaching, some of the other resources and guidelines that we provide in writing, that will help. One other comment, and to the extent that you have some training programs for emerging leaders, if as part of the curriculum you get assigned a coach, a one-to-one coach, that helps build this culture of coaching. Here in California, the assistant groups, there are 2 assistant groups. When somebody signs up to become a credentialed government leader, it's a 2-year course of study, they automatically get an ICMA coach, a one-to-one coach.
Okay. Well, thanks, Frank. So there's lots of information here. There's some ways to go through it. I'll just describe briefly something that's coming. It's not here yet, but it might be an impetus for you to organize things in Kansas. ICMA and Rob Carty on the ICMA staff have worked to create a new tool, software tool that's available externally that they're bringing into the coaching program. It's called Coach Connect, and it's a way for people to identify online who are potential coaches of interest and to figure out where potential matches might be. We're trying to do this to provide yet another way to do it. But bottom line, one of the things that we've really found around the whole area of coaching, and Frank was mentioning it, is the whole issue of, you know, how do you get people connected, especially connected across generations? So that's where the speed coaching has been effective. How many of you have been involved in the speed coaching at the annual conference? I created the idea of speed coaching like speed dating, you know, where people have short opportunities to exchange with a number of different coaches, like in 10, 15-minute segments. It's become wildly popular. There's states all over the country and the state associations that now do this regularly as part of their annual conference. It's a great way to get people connected. It's low risk, no commitment. People just, you know, come out of it in the course of an hour and a quarter or whatever with 4 or 5 different connections that they hadn't made before, and some insights into their career issues. And it's made it a very lively, engaging way, and a good way to get coaches and players introduced to one another and to do that effectively. We've taken it in California to another step, because when the Great Recession came, budgets were getting slashed. It was hard to even get you know, rising stars to have the money and the registrations and everything else to get to the state association conferences. And so we've actually created a call-a-thon version where rising stars identify that they'd like to have a coach, and that they would like to be connected, and we have during a state association meeting before breakfast at one time or during a breakfast when we're not conflicting with other programming, we have the call-a-thon, and that reaches people in the outlying areas of the state. And I know you've got some rural areas and you're a dispersed state, so that's been great in terms of making a way for anyone who wishes to be connected. And Larry, I'm glad to see that you've done this at one of your state conferences for several years, so that's outstanding. Glad you have. And other states are coming along and doing that as well. So you've got a taste of this already. And we've been morphing and evolving some of the models, like with this call-a-thon version, so people don't have to physically be in the same place, as a way to do even more to try to reach out and make coaching and the profession more accessible and the routes to success more accessible. So let's just take a look here at this juncture before we move on. Any particular questions people have about the speed coaching or one-on-one coaching, what we're trying to do there? If you're interested in giving this a particular initiative in your state, encourage you to be identifying those initial coaches you'd like to have participate, so that when the Coach Connect happens, they can get on board there. But also you don't need to wait for Coach Connect to happen. You can be doing that with a cadre of coaches in your own organization. We were just trying with ICMA to create a way that you could have a coaches gallery without everybody having to do all the programming and website development to do their own. Instead, people could go in and say, hey, I'd love to talk with a senior executive from Kansas municipality, and especially one that's interested in X and Y. And people can punch that in, and hopefully there'd be enough coaches from Kansas that person would have the choice to begin, maybe expand their network beyond just whom they would happen to know personally.
Don, I have two comments about the coaching. One is, if Kansas wants to start your own coaches gallery, I can send you the profile form as well as a lot of the resources to post on your website. In respect to Coach Connect, it's absolutely critical that for that Coach Connect to work nationwide, you need to register a lot of Kansas managers so that we have a lot of Kansas coaches who are registered for the national program. So if somebody in Kansas wants a Kansan woman manager or assistant city manager with experience in economic development in the western part of the state, we have a number of those people registered.
Okay, any questions or comments about this before we move on to other elements here? Okay. One of the things we're trying to do is also make this more than just like a static looking website. So we've, I take, each of you now is a videographer. You may not know it, but your grandchildren or children know it because you take videos of them all the time with your smartphone. So I just take my smartphone with me to every conference and every gathering, and I just find people to interview. And I ask them a question, why local government is a rewarding profession for you? And then, you click on this person and we load them up on YouTube, these videos, so people can click and find that out. How's coaching made a difference, and so on and so forth. We're going to be adding more of these. We'd love to add more from other states. So if you want to have video clips from your folks, get your smartphone out, take the video clip, send it to me in Dropbox or some other way, and I'll load it up on YouTube, and we'll include it on the website here. But it gives a face and a connection for people and a story, and stories are very powerful for helping people understand the profession and to get excited about the creative ways that people in the profession are working to have the profession work for them and them to work for the profession. So invite you to play with that. We have a lot more that are on the Cal ICMA website itself. These are just a few that I've loaded up onto the website here, but we have more coming from Pat Martell about why attracting diversity into the profession is important. We've got a whole series of others that are coming forward from my last round of video taping at a conference. So invite you to look at ways that you can be taking advantage of those resources. And then want Frank to describe for you what he's doing with Career Compass and how that works. This is a very, very popular column that he writes. Gotten tremendous positive feedback. And Frank, why don't you tell them what you're trying to accomplish with that and what's available to state associations to access that and distribute that to members?
Sure. Basically, once a month or so, I write a Career Compass column. I'm always looking for topics, so anybody in your state as part of the coaching program can suggest to me a topic, because I'm at 49, I think, 48 or 49. And we suggest that you do a number of the Career Compass columns. They deal either with leadership issues or with career development issues. And so we suggest that, first of all, you disseminate the columns to all your members and encourage them to distribute the columns to their staff. And again, if these columns or the webinar notices just stay with your members, you're not, the local government profession is not getting the bang for its buck. So we want the members to disseminate them, and either they can send them out directly or put them, incorporate them into a citywide e-newsletter to employees, or they can also post them on their talent development, employee development, or training intranet site. We also encourage the state association to post them on its coaching corner or whatever sort of segment of your website that is related to emerging leaders or professional development. So you want to use this resource in various ways. We do encourage you to create a segment, if you don't already have one, on your website that is for training and professional development, or for coaching, or for emerging leaders. So you need to get them out, encourage people to share them, and then also use them on as a resource and content for your own state association website. Some organizations don't send them out directly, but they include them in the monthly e-newsletter to members. That's another way of doing it.
Any questions about the Career Compass or about that as a resource that you'd like to ask before we move on to other components and how some of the tools you can use for getting information out to your members about the coaching program?
Frank,
yeah.
This is Anna. Frank, how long are your articles?
Well, they're
word count.
Basic. How long is each article?
Yeah. Do you have an average word count, or do you just go off the cuff?
No, I just go until I get bored with it.
Okay.
And I run out of content.
Okay.
It's usually, the last one is, it looks like it's about 3 or 4 pages long.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, thank you.
You have some feedback, Anna, about what works well in the kind of state publications that you have in terms of word count, so that Frank can consider that amongst his other factors? And
well, I'm relatively new to my team, so my voice is very low right now. I'd like to have a couple of conversations first, but this interests me.
Okay, great. So let's cover a couple other elements here so that we can be talking.
One other thing, Don, is as you build the content on your Kansas State Association website, the first 25 articles are in an anthology, and I'll be sending you can also post or link to the Career Compass ICMA webpage where all of them are listed, or you can directly list numbers 26 through, whatever, 48, 49.
And one of the things we're finding people are finding useful is that you can always use hot links so that you can have people be on your website and link over to things that they want. So here's the Career Compass Anthology for columns 1 through 25 as an example. So there's a lot of different ways that you can be easily and efficiently accessing content and making it available to your members. So those are some of the key things that are here. Let me just talk a little bit about the flyers and email correspondence that we have with you so that you know what you've got available as resources to get out to your members. Here's the flyer for 2016, which I believe has been updated for your participation. Yes, there you are. There's Kansas. And this is in a PDF format, so all these are hot links. So if you send this around everybody, they can hot link right to the registration for any of and all of the webinars. They can hot link over to these other components that are here, and things that they might want to access in an effective way. So we're trying to make this as turnkey and easy as possible for you and your members to gain benefit. Let me talk about the monthly newsletters that we do. These are things that, and here's the first one that went out, and this is just how it comes into the inbox. Just describing the program, describing what's involved. You'll see Kansas is listed there, so people see the connection. We're intentionally creating these in a format so that you could just forward them to your members. You can do more with them if you want, but we're trying to make it real easy so it's not an extra task for you. You see the extra resources, expanded resources, etc., registrations for the upcoming webinars, what to do if you've missed one, etc. So that's an example of what we sent out a month ago. The one that we sent out just in the last few weeks, once we confirmed your colleague Susan and others as our presenters for the webinar, the first one coming up on March 10th. We got this out so that everyone could see not only, okay, here's the topics, but here are the presenters. Here's some more information about them, as well as updates about what's happening in some of the other components of the coaching program, and again, an opportunity for them to register for others along the way. So I forward these out as soon as they're available to each of the designated persons in the state associations so that you've got those and can get them out in advance of the program, and people can just click on the live links and immediately engage and participate along the way. So that's a little bit about what's happening with that, and we appreciate how ICMA staff has been working on the graphics and the distribution and everything else to make that work effectively. We have an email list that's about 3,500 people that have opted in to get direct notifications, so your state members can get two ways to connect around this information. They can get it through you, or they can subscribe through ICMA to the ICMA coaching email newsletters that come out about once a month, and those then give people a way to get direct push information, if you will, into their inboxes about the programs and activities that are happening. So that's a little bit about those. What I'd like to do is be sure we're answering your questions. So please fire away with those. If we have some time left over, I might take a couple minutes and have us go look at some of the other states and talk with you a little bit about what they're doing. If you'd like to look at that, I'm thinking in particular, in addition to Cal ICMA, you might want to look at Texas and how they've branded the coaching program and their participation in the coaching program as part of their brand. I think those are a couple good examples, but there are many others. But I want to be sure that I'm answering, and Frank and I and others are answering your questions as much as possible. So please fire away and let us know what's on your mind. And we love suggestions. We've improved the program every year. It's grown double digits in participation every year. So We are constantly looking for ways to do better, so don't feel like you're embarrassing us. If there's something you think we could do better or change, we'd love to hear it and try to be continuously improving. And we'd love to hear any ideas you have about, in your mind, about how to connect these resources to help your members and help the Kansas Association of City County Managers be successful.
I do have a suggestion in terms of next steps. I think it's pretty important that you guys have sort of a launch announcement to all your Kansas members and highlight the participation in the coaching program or your access to the ICMA coaching program as a member benefit of belonging to KACM, and then also the importance of pushing out these announcements and resources to everybody in their organization so they can leverage the ICMA coaching program as a key talent development, employee development resource for all local government employees.
I encourage you to do that before the March 10th webinar, where Susan's going to be presenting, as we try to distribute presenters, the best presenters we can identify from around the country, but we tap each of the ICMA State Association coaching partners to find out who would be recommended for that and how we could go forward with it. You'll see, if you ever want to check on the state partners issues and opportunities, we have a state partners page here on the nav, and so you can see all the different information about that, the benefits of being an ICMA State Association coaching partner, how we feature you as a partner. We send out each year a survey about the topics and the presenters that would be of interest to you in your state, so you have the inside track on identifying topics and presenters that you think would be of value within your state or beyond your state borders. And getting the notices and everything else, you can go forward with these quarterly reports about participation in your state, so that you know how this is engaging your members, sharing the best practices and templates, as we've been doing today and continue to do, and shaping the future of this. Each year at the ICMA annual conference, we have an advisory committee meeting. We encourage you to identify a senior manager and an up-and-comer who's going to be attending that conference to participate in that session and add your voice and insights. Of course, we've got the Coach Connect that's coming along. So a lot of different resources here, things that you can tap, things you can learn about in terms of what other people are doing, that sort of thing. Question?
So Don,
this is Larry Payne. Go ahead, Anna.
Go ahead, Larry.
Larry Payne. One of the things that keeps rattling around in my mind with this stuff is, as a coach, how can I do a better job of it? I've been in the business for a while, but I don't necessarily want to just impose my thinking on the person that I'd be working with. Do you have history of guidance or whatever like that to help us as coaches do a better job of coaching?
Yes. You bring up a great question. It's a question we frequently get, because what we're discovering is that the senior executives, largely from the boomer generation, are quite different in their style of work and approach and interactions than the Xers and the millennials. And so there's a critical need to figure out, okay, how do you bridge those differences? What are the skills and techniques and capabilities to do that? One of the things I do as a professional coach is create coaching programs around that. Frank has also been helping states around creating coaching programs, but essentially been working to create a structure for these. And let me just go back here and I'll show you where it was. Might take me a moment while I'm talking to go find it, but there are some useful techniques that you can follow on doing that, being a great coach and a winning player. Here it is. It's just a two-sided flyer at the moment, but what we're planning on doing, and we'd like your feedback about this, is that we think that there are a lot of people who have the very question you do, Larry. And so we're thinking of having a session at the annual conference, assuming they can schedule it and everything else, where we would actually be modeling coaching sessions and showing what best practices are in coaching. I'd be doing that with some rising star that's there. You can see what that's looking like. You'd be practicing with other people, you know, pairing off in the audience, practicing a couple things together. We give you some templates, and then hopefully we'd be able to videotape the coaching session at the front of the room. Because when I first learned coaching and became a master certified coach, it was seeing it in action that really captured my excitement about being a coach and my understanding of the skills and approaches and how to do that. But for now, these are 7 key things that you can have in a conversation that can take like 30 minutes to really connect with somebody and not impose your will, but yet provide your expertise. There's a fine balance there. And they're important listening and other skills that are critical in doing that. So we'd like some feedback from you. If you and others would like to show up at a session like that, that would help us decide that, hey, that makes sense doing at the annual conference.
In addition, I can send some, both Don and I can send some other written materials that you can post on your website for coaches as well as coachees.
What do you think, Larry? Does that sound interesting to you, or is something different or off target, on target?
I was just about ready to type in. It says, if you got a session like that at the annual conference, I'll be there.
Right. Super. And welcome hearing from others about that as well. We respond to interest and demand. That's why we've kept this program growing, is because we keep hearing from people about what they'd like to have and try our best to respond. Other questions that people have, things that you're wondering about how this would be useful. Any thoughts from KU or other cities on the line here about how you can see this working?
This is Brian Silcott in Goddard. I was wondering if you might be able to differentiate between coaching and a mentor program.
Yes. Well, sometimes people are a little loose in their definitions. So a coaching program can sound like a mentoring program and vice versa, but here's the distinction that I think is critical, at least from a professional point of view. Mentoring comes actually out of the guilds in the Middle Ages, where if you wanted to become a blacksmith, you would go and work in the blacksmith shop, and you'd eventually take over as the blacksmith. And so people sort of learn trades from the person who was doing the trade. Coaching, as I would distinguish it, and as many professionals do, is very different from that, because we're finding that the millennials and Xers and others, are not interested in doing the job the same way that people have done in the past. They're not riding anyone's coattails. The market is too dynamic. Things are changing. People have 7 different jobs or careers in their lifetime. It's a totally different kind of environment. So it's really meant that we have to shift from the idea that we could mentor, that is, bring somebody under our wing and carry them through their professional life, to a model of really how can we help people identify the opportunities that are relevant to them, to realize the hopes they have for their career and their profession, and to share with them, as they are interested and open to it, insights and experiences from our individual professional exposures and life experiences. And so that takes a different kind of dynamic, and it's that change dynamic. It's just the other thing we found in terms of the coaching dynamics is we started off thinking, oh, well, people will have, do these one-on-one coaches, they'll get connected with a coach, they'll continue with them. We've learned that many rising stars are not monogamous in their coaching relationships. That is to say, they don't just link in with one person and stick with them. They do like they do when they want to find out something new. They go to like 3 different websites. Well, they'll go to like 3 or 4 different potential coaches and get their perspective. Say, hey, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? So they're very different dynamics, and so that's why we've changed to the speed coaching model. We've changed to the coaching model itself rather than mentoring, because it's what fits with trends in where today's generations are moving in terms of how they want to connect, how they want to access information, and how they want to engage.
And I think that's important to differentiate, particularly as we try and market the program, at least within our state. I think traditionally we have thought of it kind of as a quasi mentoring, mentee, protege relationship.
Yeah, we found that in the past that kind of people get frustrated with that because the mentors say, well, how come the mentee isn't coming back to me? You know, and some of the people, some of the rising stars don't get into those relationships because it feels a little tight to them. So that's why we're trying to create, and we're delivering more fluid models of engagement, and that's why Larry's question of, well, how do you connect with these folks when they seem to be wanting to go in a different direction than you may have in how you did your career is really important.
John, Larry again. Do you find that these coaching engagements are more short-term than long-term?
Well, they vary, and I think Frank's had quite a few of them. I do a lot of that professionally within local government and in the private sector as well. Some people who are really committed and have very targeted things they want to accomplish, they can be long-term, even multi-year, with different levels of intensity over time. Other people, they're trying to expand their network. They're trying to get a couple perspectives. Somebody at our last call-a-thon was just going in the next day into an interview, final interview for a possible job, and got 3 great ideas about how to approach that because they didn't have really sort of anybody else to ask. So we're seeing a mix, but Frank, why don't you share something about?
Yes, most coaching relationships is a one-time or periodic discussion or check-in. I've had some coachees that we have a long-term relationship, but it's mostly one-time or periodic. And people, they connect when they have something to talk about.
And I think that's an important thing as you launch your efforts locally, is for people to go into it with the right understandings and expectations. When they do, as you've probably experienced with your speed coaching at your state conferences, people love it. The senior folks love it because they're sharing their ideas and perspectives. The up-and-comers are, engaging in a format that kind of works in the way they live and operate. And, everyone we've ever done has just been wildly popular with people. They say, bring it back next year, next time. We now in California, one of the things that you could do in Kansas is the area managers groups in California, and there's regional area managers groups, each is committed to have at least one session a year of their area managers meetings be around coaching and professional development, and each person, area manager, brings in a rising star, and then they mix them up and they do speed coaching and some other discussions. And that's been a way to really build some connection at a local level, which is and some networking that's very effective. Well, other questions you'd like to ask? We want to be of service to you.
So Don, this is Susan. I guess first I want to say thanks for taking the time to walk through what the program is. Very comprehensive tool. I think, local government professionals across the nation are going to benefit from all of the content that you have out there. I don't necessarily have a big question. I do have to drop off of the call to get to another call.
Sure.
So for my team here, our mentoring committee, I'm going to go ahead and send out an email and maybe make some suggestions about how we do this launch. And I would love for you guys to give me your feedback on what you think might work. If it's the website, we'll have to get with LKM to figure out if that's something that we can do there, or if, in fact, the listserv might also work as a good tool for us. So let's think about that. I'll be in touch with you guys over email, and I think we'll set up a actual meeting face-to-face at the KU Spring Conference to also get our arms around it.
Sounds great.
Yeah, the only thing I want to mention is, you build on this. You know, we've had over a decade in California building on this. So it's just one step, and then you take another step, and you continuously build and incorporate some of your other programs into with the coaching program, so you can bundle your Kansas-specific programs with some of the national coaching resources, so you develop over time a much more robust program. But you don't have to do everything immediately. You build on it, and you create momentum.
Great point, Frank.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you for your interest.
Absolutely. Well, you all can continue the discussion if you'd like. I'm going to drop off, and I'll be in touch through email later this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions you'd like to ask? And I'll turn the recording off if you'd like to ask them without the recording.